We see it all the time. An e-commerce founder comes to us with a growing business. Maybe they just hit their first 3 million. Maybe they're pushing $10 million. Revenue is climbing. But when we look under the hood, shrinking bank accounts, tight cash flow, and little to no real profit. Why are they bleeding in their business? They're already doing so much revenue. It's because their e-commerce brand is running on a treadmill. It's not built as a system. And if that feels like you're reacting, you're not operating. The shift from reacting to operating starts with financial visibility. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand the exact high leverage metrics we track inside 7, 8-figure brands, the numbers that actually control scale, not vanity metrics, not platform dashboards, not creative fatigue, not ROAS, not Klaviyo attributed revenue. We're talking about the financial levers that determine whether scaling is safe for your brand, whether your retention system is engineered correctly, whether your paid media is profitable, and whether your business is structurally sound. These are the metrics that create financial mastery, and that is required for an e-commerce brand in 2026. I'm going to walk through real examples from founders we work with every single day and show you how to interpret these numbers inside of your own business. Because once you understand these metrics, you stop guessing and you start operating based on cold, hard data. So the first shift you have to make is install real visibility. Let's start with contribution margin. Contribution margin is simple. It's revenue minus your variable cost. That gets you your contribution profit. Okay, what's your variable cost? We'll break that down here in a second. But then to calculate your contribution margin, you're simply looking at contribution profit divided by your top line revenue. And so variable costs include your cost of goods sold, your payment processing, shipping and pick and pack fees, discounts, refund rate, variable commissions, and your cost per acquisition. Your marketing costs are part of that. This number tells you how much money you actually have left to acquire a customer and still be profitable. And so it's important to understand what our contribution margin metrics are when we include our advertising spend, because that will give us at a per unit per order basis, are we actually profitable and how does this roll up to the whole financial health of the business. And here's a mistake most brands make. They optimize for ROAS. A lot of agencies, a lot of marketers are still talking about ROAS as if that's a metric you should focus on. But ROAS doesn't know your margins, and ROAS doesn't know your refund rate, and ROAS doesn't know your shipping inflation, and ROAS doesn't know your shipping costs. Contribution margin tells you your true allowable CAC, your break-even ROAS. If you are going off of ROAS, you'll actually understand your costs associated with that and whether your offers are structured correctly. And if your margin is high after your advertising costs, you're probably not scaling hard enough. And if your margin is low and you're scaling hard, you're gambling. And oftentimes you have to rely on lifetime value and repeat customers. Weekly during scale, monthly at minimum, and broken out by product and offer. When we applied this to a supplement partner, we didn't improve ads. We recalculated allowable CAC based on their contribution profit. And that's how blended CAC dropped 32% while revenue grew 71%. Because we weren't chasing vanity, we were focusing on efficiency. We were truly protecting profit per order. Next, let's talk about retention from a cost structure lens. Retention isn't just about revenue, it's about channel efficiency. When we focus on acquisition, we focus a lot on contribution margin. Let's talk about now retention. How do we get more from the customers that we already acquired? So we want to look at all your metrics on the retention side, your email revenue percentage, your SMS revenue percentage, your revenue per subscriber, your cost per subscriber, your email health score. If your email is under 20% of total revenue and you're an e-com brand with repeat purchase potential, that's under leverage. If your list is bloated and the engagement is low, you're likely paying for dead weight on that Klaviyo bill, your deliverability drops, and revenue percent declines. And before scaling, we ask, what's revenue per active subscriber? What's the cost per active subscriber? What's your 90-day engagement rate? A healthy retention system is 30 to 45% of total revenue for consumables. And a healthy retention system is often 30 to 45% of top line revenue should be coming from our email, our SMS, and retention strategies with clear segmentation, clean lists, revenue percent increasing over time. And one of our partners came to us with bloated software costs. They're paying so much for their Klaviyo bill. And our first move was simply to clean this up. Sometimes brands have these bloated lists and we can really trim that down by understanding who is active on our email subscriber list. And so we're able to cut that Klaviyo bill down 50% almost immediately. And then we rebuilt the flows with financial intent, right? So the email flows, a lot of people just have basic flow set up. The welcome optimized for payback window, post-purchase optimized for second order velocity, win back optimized for margin protection. And in 9 months with this brand, email went from under 20% to 40% plus of revenue, which is a huge profit center. And that's not because we just sent more emails. It's because we engineer retention as a profit system. Okay, now we zoom out. We understand our acquisition costs, our retention metrics. Now we want to look at LTV to new customer acquisition. Lifetime value divided by your new customer acquisition costs. And very important, for new customer acquisition costs, we're not looking at your meta CPA. We're looking at how many new customers are we acquiring on a monthly basis and how much spend are we expending to get those new customers. The metric LTV to new customer acquisition cost says, is scaling safe for us? And it's important that when we look at LTV, we want to look at different time horizons. So you might want to look at a 60-day window, a 3-month window. You might want to look at a 6-month window and a 1-year lifetime value. This all depends on the type of niche, the types of products that you're selling, but it gives us the comfortability to answer the question, is scaling actually safe? And even better, bonus points if you don't just look at LTV, but you look at lifetime gross profit. Lifetime gross profit is looking at our margin after cost of goods sold and all that good stuff to understand, okay, this is what's left for acquisition costs on that side. So if you run this analysis and you see 1-to-1 LTV to CAC ratio, you're losing money because you have cost of goods sold. 2-to-1 is fragile, 3-to-1 is stable, 4-to-1 is really strong, especially with strong margins, and 5-to-1 is aggressive scale territory. If LTV is strong and retention is healthy, you can simply outbid your competitors, you can increase spend confidently, and you can expand to other channels. If your LTV is weak, we always recommend fixing retention before scaling acquisition. Maybe we want to improve your average order value, improve second purchase rate, increase the velocity at which a customer comes back and buys. You do not fix a bad LTV with better ads. You fix it with one, better product. Obviously make sure your product is strong. Product bundling, subscription optimization, post-purchase flows, offer restructuring. You really need to map out and understand your whole customer journey from first purchase to second, third, fourth, fifth. We ran this analysis for a brand called Peaky Hat last year. We noticed our LTV was so strong that scaling on Meta wasn't risky. So what we did is we increased revenue through Meta by 108% in 60 days, while CPA still dropped 11%. We weren't guessing, we weren't just going off of ROAS, we understand the whole financial health of the company. And that ratio told us the system could absorb more customers. Now let's talk about marketing efficiency ratio. Marketing efficiency ratio is one of the top-down great metrics to look at to know how efficient our spend is when it comes to our revenue generation. So marketing efficiency ratio is total revenue divided by total marketing spend. This is the system level truth. It ignores all the channel attribution drama. Meta, Google, Klaviyo, all these platforms want to say they're making you money. But what it does is it ignores those false attribution or over attribution that happens when you look at in-platform data. It tells you for every $1 spent on marketing, how many dollars actually come back. A healthy MER ranges, it varies by margin and the types of products that you sell, but generally 2 to 3x is very tight. 3 to 4, healthy. 4 to 6, very strong. 6+, you're probably underspending, or you just have so much high retention leverage. Here's a nuance. If revenue grows, but MER drops sharply, you're scaling inefficiently. If revenue grows and MER improves or stays stable, then you're compounding. And what that means is your paid is feeding your retention. You actually have a system in place that acquires customers and retains. Your retention is lowering blended CAC, and the system is reinforcing itself. For that brand, Peaky Hat, where we understood their LTV was really strong and they were just simply not scaling aggressively, we doubled their revenue while improving MER. And that's not just growth, that's structural efficiency improving while scaling. And that's the difference between short-term ad spikes when you're just looking at ROAS, like, oh, let's just scale up spend, versus durable enterprise value creation. If you understand these metrics across the board for your e-commerce brand, you can scale confidently and predictably. And that's the difference between short-term ad spikes where you're just looking at ROAS and say, yeah, let's scale spend, versus durable enterprise value creation. We want predictability when we are scaling a brand. We want to know our metrics. We're not scaling blind. We're not just going off of ROAS. It's very important to understand all of these metrics before making decisions to scale up spend, or else you're just going to scale and continue to lose profit. So let's zoom out. We covered contribution margin. We talked about retention efficiency. We talked about LTV to CAC, and we talked about MER. These are some of the most important leverage points in your business. And if you understand them, you are able to control your momentum. And that's the difference between a business that grows revenue at all expense and a business that builds enterprise value. The founders who win that we work with at 8 figures track the financial architecture of their company. And if you want help diving into your numbers, your contribution margin by offer, your true allowable CAC, your LTV to CAC ratio, your retention payback window, your system level MER, then I invite you to click the link down below and book in a free Core Growth Audit call. What we'll do on this call is it's a laid back conversation. We'll want to understand where are your metrics now and how can those be improved? And we'll want to know where you're bleeding, where you're under leveraged, and where you're structurally ready to scale. So if you're interested in our team running that audit for you, then click the link down below to learn more and schedule in that audit. I'll see you inside.